Make history. We are here on the start with the Prince Philip Challenge Trophy. This is Newport Aquatic Center, U.S.A. On the left against Headington School on the right. This is going to be a really exciting junior women's eights race.
Absolutely. I absolutely love watching the junior events at Henley, just because I think it brings out the best in junior sport. Really, it's something that people really care about. And as you can see, I'm sure there's plenty of fans on the for Headington in particular on the bank.
Sorry, just cutting in because I can see some clashing starting here. You know, less experience perhaps in these boats. The wind blowing. We saw the umpire warning. I think it was Headington there. The walls coming together for a moment. Now you've done the boat race where clashing is more of the order, but here at Henley, we really try to keep the crews apart on this straight course.
Yeah, it's very much discouraged. It's in the boat race, and it's very much encouraged. But here we want nice, clean racing, and the crews to stick to their stations. And as we can see here, perhaps Newport have a slight advantage, but it's a bit difficult to tell because of the parallax.
Yeah, so I think a little bit of a shaky start with that steering, and both crews will have been slightly rattled by that. One of the things that perhaps can be a bit more challenging as a younger crew, as we cut down live a little bit further down the course. Going back to see the incident, beg your pardon, this is the umpire warning, as I said, Headington School, who just seemed to have steered across. And I think it's that crosswind that we could see earlier, Angus, that was causing that challenge. Yeah,
and also just that island, it's really deceptive, you know, it kicks out, so what you can't see is at the start, it's the island's quite thin, and then there's some buoys on that buck station, and it kicks in at you, and that often, like if you've got that in your peripheral vision, it kicks you out right into the middle of the course. So often you've got to take that into account and just ignore it, but it's quite hard to do. But this is a super race that's developing here, really close, coming through about 500 metres there, that bench there.
Yeah, you can sort of see both crews moving, and it's almost stroke for stroke, woman for woman, puddle for puddle here. Headington attacking again, I think, just to try to sticking with Newport. Newport are trying to walk away. At this point in the stroke, Newport slight advantage, just wanting to move a couple of centimetres a stroke, 5 centimetres a stroke as they pass the barrier marks about 640 metres down the course. Random number for really weird historic reasons, so it's always also quite difficult to know where you are in the course if you're not a local.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I really like about both crews actually is that the discipline that we're seeing. They're looking straight down the boat. They're not looking at the opposition, despite it being a super close race. And often that's really important in rowing really well.
So you can see from those two numbers 1 and 2 there, that's the distance between the crews, and it was a quarter of a length to Newport there at the barrier, 600 odd metres down the course. So it's really turning into a great race. And for my money, Headington just starting to look a little bit more comfortable, lengthening out a little bit more. Maybe Headington can feel that they're moving. We're going to pass our camera exactly so we'll be able to see exactly what's happening. My goodness, yeah, still a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 seats to Newport at this stage. Headington trying to hang on and doing so quite courageously over the last couple of hundred metres.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's really telling is that these American crews, and particularly on the women's side, they are just so strong, and they know how to win in these events. Historically, American women's eights have been so good, but you know, British women's eights are on the up, and as you can see here, Headington are really challenging, making the most out of the middle of the race, and perhaps I don't know if it might be sneaking ahead. It's very hard to tell at the moment.
Well, in the wider part of the river here, through the middle of the course, we're just approaching the halfway mark here. We've got Newport from Newport Aquatic Center, USA, just looking across there, the Cox, Grace Gallipo on Newport's side, just looking across her shoulder, seeing if Headington are moving. And I'm impressed with how Headington are holding on strongly here. You can see a really strong stroke levering through the middle of that stroke against this crosswind from Headington. So still an incredible race. We've now passed halfway, and we're into that difficult third quarter of the race where you've spent a lot of beans, haven't you? But you know that the finish is some way to go.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's very difficult to know exactly how many of those beans you've spent, or the opposition has spent. in that first half, and coming into that last bit. So, I mean, all you can really do is focus on your own rowing. And actually, as we can see now, Headington have, I think, stuck a couple of feet. Maybe it's a canvas up now.
Yeah, big push from the young women of Headington there. Really impressed to see how they're moving, and I think they're starting to move through. Maybe they've got their nose in front in this middle of the race. So could this be a decisive move from the young women of Headington? Stroked by Sophia Hassman there, lifting her crew and moving. So it's going to be hard for the Newport women to respond. Will they hold off, or will they attack straight away at the same time?
Well, I'm really interested to see what Newport have got in the locker. You know, they're going to have perhaps a little bit more of advantage on that station coming towards the last bit, and exactly how much energy have they got. But it's a seriously mature performance from this Headington crew so far. You know, they went down and they've pushed through, and I cannot wait to see what happens at the finish. So
when your cox calls you in an 8 to push, you know, you really want the whole crew to respond together, and if they do, you can get a real lift, and that's what's happened with Headington. Then there's the question, does that lift, even though it's very tiring, just give you a confidence that suddenly gives a boost to the energy of the crew? And that seems to me to be what's happening here, and we've got to see whether Newport have got in that toolkit of theirs, as you mentioned, Agus, have they got a response?
Absolutely. I think this is also an important point for 8s racing. The important point in the race that the cox really comes into play as well, and exactly what they say can bond the crew together and either produce a response or a defence in response to the other crew. And as we can see here, it really seems like the Headington cox has lifted them really well. Alison Powell's done a fantastic job of encouraging her crew to keep calm, keep collected, and perhaps making the most of their advantage over Newport.
Yeah, I think Headington started moving just after that halfway mark, subtly, and then faster, and then more per stroke, and they have kept moving, and so far Newport haven't been able to respond. They're trying now to hold on to the overlap. It's a bit difficult to see from this angle exactly how much of an overlap. But it's a question for Headington now, after that big move and big push. Do they hold here, or do they keep moving? Have they got what they need to take it over the line and put themselves into the final? It'll be the only British crew in the final, I think, here, because there's Americans on the other side of the draw. So it's Great Britain on the left, U.S.A. on the right, Headington School and Newport. As they come into the crowds, you can hear excitement from everybody. This is a tremendous junior women's 8 race. I think Newport are finally starting to move on Headington.
Absolutely, they're really going for it now, Newport. And I'm wondering, as it comes up, we can see the angle, if they've got a bit more advantage, and it looks like they have. This is going to be a cracker of a finish.
So we're into the last 15 strokes. It's Headington School, half a length over Newport, who have come back from nearly a length down. Newport are still trying to move. The crews are coming together. It's about how many strokes you can get in, and the legs are burning, the lungs are bursting. But it's Headington School staying ahead as they come to the last 3 strokes of the race at Henley Regatta. Headington School booking their place in a final. Great mature row from them coming back through in the second half.
Really good, and they look exhausted. You know, that really took a lot out of them.
Yeah, that was an incredibly strong, mature race from Headington School. As you said, the combination of the cox